Picture this. You've been working your fields from dawn to dusk, season after season. Your hands are rough from the plow. Your back aches from bending over crops. You've saved every penny, denied yourself every comfort, pushing harder each year. And yet, despite all this toil, the harvest seems barely enough. The worry keeps you awake at night. Your body grows weary. Your spirit feels heavy. You sit on your porch one evening and wonder, there has to be another way. Well, what if I told you there is? What if the very struggle you think is necessary is actually the thing keeping your good at bay? Over a century ago, a remarkable woman named Emma Curtis Hopkins discovered something revolutionary. She found that our deepest desires aren't achieved through straining and grasping. They come through what she called turning toward, the countenance that shineth hot with healing tenderness and rich giving. Hopkins taught that there's a divine source of all good, and this source provides more abundantly when we stop fighting for scraps and start resting in its infinite supply. Today, we're going to explore how dropping the struggle can actually bring you everything you've been working so hard to achieve. Let me start with a story Hopkins might have told. Imagine a traveler lost in the wilderness, desperately thirsty. He sees what appears to be water shimmering in the distance. He runs toward it frantically, stumbling over rocks, using his last reserves of strength. But the faster he runs, the further the water seems to move away. Now imagine he stops running. He sits still for a moment. He looks up at the sky instead of at the distant shimmer. In that moment of stillness, he hears it. The gentle sound of water trickling nearby. A real stream, hidden behind bushes just a few steps from where he stands. This is exactly what Hopkins discovered about life. When we're straining toward our goals, chasing shadows of success, we often miss the very thing we're seeking. It's already closer than we think. She wrote about something beautiful. She spoke of ceasing strenuousness on every line, and instead turning our attention to that divine countenance that shines with healing tenderness. This isn't just poetic language. It's a practical instruction for living. When Hopkins used the word countenance, she meant the face of God, the loving presence that surrounds us always. She taught that this presence is hot with healing tenderness and rich giving. It's not distant or withholding. It's eager to pour out good upon us. But here's the key. We can't receive this good while we're in a state of frantic grasping. Our hands have to be open. Our minds have to be still. Our hearts have to trust. Think about it this way. Have you ever tried to catch a butterfly by chasing it through the garden? The harder you pursue, the faster it flies away. But sit quietly among the flowers, and eventually, one might alight right on your hand. This is how our good comes to us. Not through the clash of endeavor, but through the peace of alignment. Let's get practical. How does this apply to your everyday struggles? First, let's talk about provision. If you're like most people, worry about having enough keeps you restless. You work longer hours, take on burdensome tasks, constantly fret about not having sufficient means. You're chasing the mirage of security through exhausting effort. Hopkins would say this approach is backwards. Instead of running frantically toward financial stability, she taught a different method. She said to affirm, "The good I am seeking is my support. God is my support." Now, this might sound too simple, but Hopkins understood something profound about how the universe operates. When we affirm that God is our support, we're not just saying pleasant words. We're aligning our consciousness with the source of all supply. She taught that God is not separate from our good. God is our good. So when we say, "God is my support," we're claiming that infinite intelligence and infinite supply are behind us. We're moving from a consciousness of lack to a consciousness of abundance. This doesn't mean you cease all effort. It means you work from a different place. Instead of desperate scrambling, you take inspired action. Instead of fear-based choices, you make decisions from inner guidance. Instead of competing for limited resources, You tap into unlimited provision. I once knew a merchant who practiced this teaching when his business began to fail. Instead of frantically seeking new customers through desperate measures, he spent time each morning affirming, "God is my support." He held the vision of his shop filled with grateful customers. Within a month, word of his honest dealings had spread, and people traveled from neighboring towns to trade with him. Was this a miracle? Hopkins would say no. This was simply the natural result of aligning with the source instead of struggling against circumstances. The same principle applies to health. How many of us are at war with our bodies? Fighting ailments, fighting weakness, fighting conditions we don't want. We battle the very vessel that carries us through life. Hopkins taught a radical alternative. Instead of fighting illness, she said to rest in this affirmation: "The good I am seeking is my health. God is my health." Again, this isn't denial or wishful thinking. This is recognition of a fundamental truth. Life itself is divine. Health is our natural state. When we stop fighting and start affirming the truth of our divine wholeness, the body often responds in remarkable ways. A woman I knew was told by physicians that her weakness would be permanent. Instead of accepting this as her fate, she began practicing Hopkins' method. Each morning, she would sit quietly and affirm, "God is my perfect health." She visualized divine life flowing through every part of her being. Within months, her strength had returned completely. The doctors called it unexpected recovery. She called it alignment with truth. But let's be clear about what this approach is and what it isn't. This isn't about sitting idle waiting for good things to fall like ripe fruit. This isn't about ignoring practical wisdom or sound counsel. This is about changing the consciousness from which you take action. It's about moving from struggle to flow, from anxiety to trust, from grasping to receiving. When you're aligned with Source, right action becomes clear. Opportunities present themselves. Resources appear. Health improves. Not because you forced these things to happen, but because you stopped blocking them with resistance. Hopkins often used the metaphor of a stream. When fallen branches block a stream, the water backs up and becomes stagnant. But remove the branches, and the water flows freely to its destination. Your struggle, your worry, your straining effort, these are the branches blocking your good from flowing to you. When you drop the struggle, you remove the obstacles. The good that has always been seeking you can finally reach you. This requires a fundamental shift in how you view yourself and your relationship to life. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who must fight for every blessing, you begin to see yourself as a beloved child of the universe. Instead of believing that life is harsh and resources are scarce, you recognize that you live in a generous universe of infinite supply. Hopkins called this shift righteous judgment. Instead of judging by appearances, by what seems limited or lacking, you judge by the truth of divine abundance. You look beyond the mirage to the real spring of life that's always flowing. I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine waking tomorrow morning without that familiar weight of worry in your chest. Imagine moving through your day knowing, truly knowing, that you are supported by something greater than your own efforts. Imagine trusting that your good is already making its way to you. How would you carry yourself differently? How would you treat others? How would you make choices? How would you feel in your body? This is what Hopkins called the life of Jesus made visible in mortal flesh. Not religious ceremony, but practical spiritual living. Living from the consciousness that you are one with the source of all good. So here's my invitation to you. Choose one area of your life where you've been struggling. Perhaps it's your livelihood, your health, your relationships, your purpose. Just one area. For the next 7 days, practice dropping the rope of struggle in this area. Instead of pushing and forcing and worrying, try resting in this simple affirmation. The good I am seeking is your specific need. God is that same good. Speak it when you rise. Repeat it throughout the day when anxiety stirs. Meditate on it before sleep. Let these words reshape your consciousness from lack to abundance, from struggle to trust. Watch what unfolds. Notice how doors begin to open. Pay attention to how your burden lightens. Observe how solutions come to you rather than you having to hunt them down. This isn't magic. This is the natural law of consciousness that Hopkins understood so deeply. When you align your mind with the source of all good, your experience must reflect that alignment. The countenance that shines with healing tenderness and rich giving is always turned toward you. It's not a distant deity you must persuade or appease. It's the very life within you, eager to express as your health, your prosperity, your joy, your peace. Stop chasing the mirage. Turn your attention to the stream that has been flowing beside you all along. Drop the struggle and let your good find you. Your true life is waiting.